Welcome to Chronic Curiosity, where we have real conversations with real people, from everything to anything, in attempts to facilitate dialogue with our fellow humans, and hopefully your curiosity as well as ours. If you can withstand the show, we ask, most importantly, that you tell your friends and family, but also you can pick up some merch or just donate to the show at chronic-curiosity.com in USD or Bitcoin. If you feel so obliged, you can give us a good rating and follow on whatever podcast platform you so choose. But please feel free to reach out to us on the website or the socials, which can also be found on the website, chronic-curiosity.com. And here we go.
So man, he's probably sent some your way.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely certain of it.
I was ready to send them back, I think. So there's some characters in there.
You should probably just walk around the jail to keep everybody in line. Like, I mean, you're a big dude. They should probably get all they can out of you.
So hardly anyone knows who I am because I just wear I literally wear flip flops in there sometimes, and people are just like, "Who is that dude?" Or they'll be in there in the exam room, and they'll be like, they just think I'm like a maintenance dude. I'll have like a plaid shirt on. And dude,
you kind of look like a maintenance guy.
They have no idea. It's so fantastic. So then no one, because, imagine you're in there, people want anything they can get if they see, the doc.
Yeah.
And so they just don't know. I go in incognito.
Has anyone ever been like, hey, how'd you get out? Who was the dude that got you in here? Because he must be something serious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's met some characters.
Oh,
cool. Yeah, so we can start anytime. I didn't know if you guys wanted that in there. Sometimes we just start talking and then it just kind of happens.
There was a part of me that I was hoping we just already had gone into it.
Yeah. We're good. Solid. Okay, awesome. Right. Well, obviously, as Tony played his part and you guys did yours with the bourbons, and I want to get into the bourbons. You guys are putting on. Sorry, Tony. Before Tony yells at me.
Well, I can yell at you, but we got to introduce him.
Kirk Sheets, Casey
Tester.
Thank you for being here.
No problem.
And I have next to zero knowledge about what you guys are doing and what you've started. So obviously, you guys are doing a bourbon raffle, and that's kind of how this whole thing started. But how this right here started. But how did the bourbon raffle start behind the scenes, all the things what, I know it's a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess how did from ground zero, what brought us to this point?
So St. Peter and Paul Catholic School is a very small Catholic school in the village of Doylestown. And we've been working the last couple years. Actually, every year we're trying to get enrollment. Because it's a pre-K through 7th grade, and it's traditionally always been Catholic families, but over the years, in order to help enrollment, one of the great things our Catholic school did was we started an all-day pre-K. So for those of people that have kids, they understand how expensive daycare is. So enrollment or tuition to St. Peter and Paul is less than what you'd be paying for daycare. So they're thinking, education, and I don't have to pay for daycare, and then some of those families that aren't Catholic, they end up staying because, we really do have a great school and we have some great teachers and just such a great core foundation, not just in religion, but just, the difference between right and wrong. And obviously the class sizes are smaller. So, the kids get a little bit more of that one-on-one with teachers and things like that. But because it is a small Catholic school and we don't receive any money from the Cleveland Diocese, our doors stay open just specifically from the Catholic Church in Doylestown, those parishioners, and then what we as parents do for fundraising in order to pay, teachers and salaries and maintenance and to turn the lights on and everything like that. So it just so happens to be it's Kirk and I's responsibility now as parents with kids in the school that burden has kind of fallen on us. And that's okay, because with our faith, we understand that burden and we're welcome to it. So Kirk and I both love bourbon. For the last couple years, we've started our own little collections and things like that for various reasons. But the bourbon craze, especially with the pandemic and everything like that, it's kind of gotten really, really big. And and I know some of the bottles, even some of the bottles I'm looking at here on the secondary market, if there's a want, and the price point is right, and they can get them and they can sell them for more money, then people want to make more money. So that bourbon craze is kind of blown up a little bit. So we thought it'd be a little bit different if we did a bourbon fundraiser. Just because I think that I think it is different. I think there is a lot of people out there that are starting to get into it. We thought it'd be a good idea to maybe try this and see if we couldn't help keep those doors open.
So that's the school solely operates only on the community,
Right?
once been brought in.
Yeah, we run bingo. On it used to be every Thursday and Saturday, but that's kind of fallen the wayside a little bit. It's different, I think, now because I think you have a lot more families in which both parents in the family, they work, and unfortunately, I think society in general has become more of a garage door community in which you go to work, you come home, you shut that garage door, and I don't know, like it seems to me like, especially in my generation, that community service and that community whole and that community, that want to do service isn't the same thing that when I was growing up, and I remember my parents doing it and my wife's parents doing it. So it's harder and harder to find people to volunteer. It's harder and harder to find people to want to do like fundraisers like this or raffles like this. It's harder to find families and parents that want to work bingo because, it's in the evenings and it's,
Right.
5 or 6 hours. But, bingo has been one of the ways that we've been able to keep those doors open for as long as we have. Not to mention, like you'd said before, Tony, that, that community, that community that we have that keeps those doors open. So it's kind of where we're at with it.
I think it's interesting you say that. It's funny because I was telling Kirk before we started, this weekend has been my daughter's involved in a drama club show, and I ran into somebody that I haven't seen. I mean, I'm trying to think, probably 20, maybe 25 years plus that we lived in the same street. And then we ended up finding out that like our daughters are both part of the same thing. And like my wife had talked to his wife the night before, but I didn't realize that like they were all connected. And he was like, Fred? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, look at this guy. And I see him, I'm like, man, like this guy looks familiar, but I don't know if he just looks familiar because he just looked familiar. And then I realized he's like, hi. He's like, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, like now, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I was talking to my wife the other night and she said something about Fred. And I was like, man, I think I lived next to him when we were like in 4th grade. And I was like, yeah. Like, and we talked about, he even said, he's like, he had moved back to the real close area. He said, he's like, I drive down the streets. He's like, and I remember like, there was a bunch of houses of kids that we would just go out and play backyard football and baseball and, just beat the crap out of each other essentially, until the lights turned off and we had to go back home, or the lights, the street lights turned on rather. And it was like, he goes, he's like, I drive around the streets and there's just nobody outside anymore. He's like, there's just nobody. And he's like, nothing's happening. He's like, and it's like, man, like, there's gotta be kids in these neighborhoods. Like where is everybody? And like I told you before we started, it was like, this was, it took a long time for me to realize that maybe, but it was, mid 2020 and we're like, no one's sitting down talking anymore. Like no one has conversations anymore. So it's like, what's going on? So I think that's, a really awesome kind of direction to be headed to try to, hey, let's stop shutting our garage doors maybe, so quickly and talking to the neighbors. So you're putting on this, and I know it's called, you guys, a father's commitment. So if you want to talk about a little bit about the raffle and why, like, and just kind of the, some of the basis points around that, I think it's.
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit 501c3, and the name of the organization is called A Father's Commitment. And we decided what we were going to do is we have 150 limited allocated bourbon that we're going to raffle off one at a time. And we decided we're going to sell 1,500 tickets. So if we, when we looked at it, you got a 1 in 10 chance of winning, which, those are pretty decent odds. And all of the bottles in the raffle are about $50, and that's what the raffle tickets cost, are $50. So if you win, you get your money back. So we thought that would be, we thought that was enough to, to push those tickets out and to get those tickets sold. So our goal is to raise $75,000 through this raffle. And I should have started off by saying I can't thank you guys enough for letting us come on here and
Right.
letting us kind of push this message a little bit, because the school means a lot to us. And you know, it was a really difficult decision for me, because I wasn't raised Catholic. I converted when my wife and I got married, many years ago, and mostly because of my wife's father, who is a devout Catholic, and he's one of the greatest men I've ever known. And I'm gonna stop talking about him right now because I'll start to cry, and that probably doesn't go over well on a podcast. But he's a good man, and I see how much he's got 5 kids. My wife has 4 brothers and sisters, and I just see how much they adore him. And it really does. It is rooted in that family faith that he has. And it's huge in our community. It really is. I mean, Doylestown is a family based community, and there's about a dozen families with all the same last name, and we kind of tease each other because everybody's related to everybody. And I think you guys coming from small communities, you can
Right.
you can appreciate that, or at least you understand what I'm talking about. So it's important that we do this. And like I said, I've got 3 little girls in the school. It's like I said, a pre-K through 7th grade, and there's it's not a big school, but the families that are there, they're really good people. So I think this is, as a father and as a parishioner and as a member of the community, I think this is a good thing to kind of push that a little bit and hopefully help.
Give back.
I think so. It's pretty clear to see how this guy ended up in the spot he was after telling us about his career choices and how but how did you guys get connected?
So I worked bingo with Casey's wife. And I started talking about bingo and bourbon and stuff. So she's like, "Hey, you got to talk with Casey about our bourbon collections." And she's like, "Well, we thought about reaching out to the insurance company because Casey's collection's getting up here. We were here, and then we're here." And then she's like, "I'm worried about if something happens to the house.
What's going to happen to the
What's
bourbon?
going to happen to the bourbon collection?"
I feel like Tony can sympathize with that.
That was her concerns.
Yeah.
Just how do we pay for this in case the house burns down?
So we started talking then about bourbon and stuff. And I'd actually been part of a raffle up north St. Barnabas had done. And they had raised $100,000 for their school. So I started looking at this, and I reached out to the principal. I'm like, "Hey, how can we do this?" And I said, "Would you guys support this?" So we started going down through the laws and stuff, the liquor laws, and we realized we had to get the 501c3. So we filed for all this, and about 8 months later, here we are, and many nights getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, going out getting these bottles to put together the collection.
Well, I've seen, because I remember it was months ago when I was like, "Hey," I was like, "I don't know too many people that are as into bourbon as Tony," and I was like, "This Kirk guy I know." If anything to say about his Instagram feed, it's basically all bourbon. So like he looks like he knows what he's talking about. I don't, but it looks like he knows what he's doing, and the collection looks like it's continuing to grow and grow and grow. So is that part of the goal was to pick up some of the for this fundraiser to be able to do that?
Right.
I think we knew enough about it to where and Kirk has the contacts to be able to get a lot of these limited bottles. Because the state of Ohio does it a little bit different because we're a controlled state. So the state of Ohio controls
Right.
all the bourbon. So, we can't get those big name bottles like the Pappy Van Winkles and things like that, those bottles alone, just the name pushes the tickets.
Right.
If we would have been able to get some of those bottles, they sell themselves. But Kirk has the contacts to be able to get some of these limited and allocated and rare bottles, so that we could do this. But I think at the end of the day, we just thought it was a little bit different too. It was passions of ours. So it was something, it was important to us. But I'm tired of buying wrapping paper and ice cream and, and all these other raffles and everything like that. So, we just thought it'd be maybe something different that, people could get behind and hopefully be able to sell those tickets.
Yeah. I think it's something, there's a lot of people that will, go in, we talked about like just going to the bourbon just to buy the bourbon and resell it, but it's something different that, there's a lot of, the more and more I'm learning about it, like the processes and everything behind it and all the different, one of my favorite things has been recently is to try different store picks of the exact same brand. I think with the one, what was it? I think we had, Josh and Chad on here the one day, and we had, I don't know how many bottles of.
We just stuck with Elijah Craig, and it was like a bunch of barrel proofs.
There had to be like 12, like 15 different, like,
and then a ton of
different Elijah Craigs to be able to like, and so you realize it's like, oh, like you think like these 2 barrels, and I have a couple of my favorite. They're like just like 4 or 5 barrel numbers apart, and they taste completely different. It's like, okay, like this is kind of cool to be able to decipher these things and be able to taste them. It's like, all right, now I get it. Like this is kind of neat.
Yeah.
And it's like like a adult little toy collection almost.
Yeah. Right? And what I find to be the most intriguing too is that, with my wife, who she's starting to come over to the dark side, and she's starting to drink, more bourbon, but she loves just the way the bottles look. It's just, very, very pleasing in the way they look. And some of the bottles are really, really pretty. And so for me, it's kind of fun to, I bring home another bottle. I'm like, but hon,
look how cool this bottle
look how pretty this bottle is. We can almost put that up like, on a shelf in the house, and, and people, it's almost like a decoration. It goes over, not very far.
Doesn't quite work, but nice try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like we have to like have a celebratory try of one of them. I don't know which one. I mean, Tony came prepared this time.
Right. I was trying to think of stuff like, hey, maybe these guys haven't tried some of this, or there's some stuff in there that's very inexpensive that if you did a blind taste, I think it would blow a lot of things out of the water.
Well, that's what you walked in with, that benchmark foolproof. I was like, what?
Right here.
Like, what is this?
I like that. Yeah. And that can't be. I mean, what's that? $30?
Yeah, I think it was $25.
Yeah, like where do you even find this though?
Oh, that was Kentucky.
I was gonna say usually it comes in like a plastic gallon container. It's like, give us $5 and you're good to go. This is, you say, have you tried this?
I have never had the foolproof benchmark. No, there's actually a lot of those up there. I have not. I've had the Templeton and the Evan Williams. I actually got when I was down at the Evan Williams experience down there in Kentucky. But
did you like this one? I've only tried the 4-year. I didn't try the 6-year.
I love Templeton. I think they make some of the best rye, and especially when you're mixing cocktails and stuff like that. I mean, with the rye and how spicy it is. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fascinating to like understand. I don't understand any of it, but to be able to tell the differences, because I know like the first time I noticed that ryes for me, if I like them neat.
Mm-hmm.
But if I even put any type of water or ice in them, they almost like turn like bitter and gross to me. It was like, oh, like I never realized that like you could have one that like, cause some of them are really good. Like you put just a little bit of, dash of water. Yeah. Like, but man, those ryes are just, for whatever it is, it just hits me. I mix them with water.
I think one of the, this was an experience that when I first got into bourbon, I didn't know, and I don't even remember who told me this, but they had said that, and again, this just goes back to the, in the front of your tongue is where the taste bud, like sweet taste buds are. Mm-hmm. So like in order to taste something sweet, it has to hit the front of your tongue, to whereas the ryes and the more bitter or the more spicy things are on the back of your tongue. Just in knowing that, it really changed my experience when I was drinking bourbon, because I could then I thought I was like a scientist, that I could say, oh nope, that's a bourbon, oh nope, that's a rye, just based on where it hit my tongue. But I think it's things like that just that make bourbon just, I don't know. For me, it just makes it fun. It's an experience as opposed to me just cracking open 12 Bud Lights and then feeling awful in the morning, or feeling like feeling like I'm pregnant. So I don't know. I like that experience of it. But I don't know, that and the history. I love dating back to the beginning of this country and bootlegging and making all of the whiskey and things like that. It's such an ingrained in our culture and in our and who we are as a country. Because it's been there since the beginning, and people made money that way, and nothing's really changed. It's just gotten more, gotten
complicated.
Bigger. Yeah.
Well,
more complicated.
And realizing too, like, cause some like things are like people taste different things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So they recognizing that like it's really neat, because you have these conversations. You sit down with, someone can enjoy a bourbon, and you almost always end up in some kind of conversation. and it's neat to see like the differences in people, not only through the conversation, but the bourbons themselves. Because I've had multiple times where Tony be like, "Oh, like this is really good." I'm like, "Oh, okay," and I'll have him like, "Oh, this is really good." And he'll be like, "Oh, okay," you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And like each
Right.
person like taste that their tastes and like their likes and their dislikes and their personality, like everyone's just a little bit different. And to find something that maybe this is it's bourbon is, I guess, to me a really good example of that, where it's like it's brown liquor.
Mm-hmm.
It made
Mm-hmm.
essentially
The same way.
the exact same
Mhm.
way, but it's stored in a different barrel,
Mhm.
or it's maybe this mash bill is just a little bit different, and then different people will like it a little bit differently. And it's like, okay, you realize the level of complexity of even in the minute things, it also translates into ourselves. And I don't know, maybe that's taking it too deep for
No,
for
I don't
bourbon,
think-
but
I don't think
but
so at all.
it's
I don't-
really neat.
I'll take it one step further. I personally like the smell better than I like the taste. I love being able to pull out in the bourbon world what they call notes, or the different smells and things like that. But most bourbon, and I'm more of a bourbon fan than I am a rye fan. But again, I love the smell of brown sugar, and in most bourbon, you get that sweet apple or cherry or fruit, and then the brown sugar and the caramel and or caramel, however. you pronounce it.
Caramel, it's
Yeah.
caramel here.
Caramel, yeah, it's caramel where I'm from too. But Worcester, like I don't know. I don't
Definitely
know.
Worcester.
Yeah, it's Worcester.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely
you. Thank
Worcester.
you. Well, everybody can stay.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I love those smells, and I will just sit there and smell it, and I look like my dog. But I really do enjoy that aspect of it too. So I don't know. It's again, I think with regardless of the taste and regardless of the smell, but enjoying it with my father-in-law, who again is such a huge influence in my life, and again it was with bourbon too, because he's the one that started, and he got me into drinking. He likes Weller. He calls it Wellers, which my family and I, we kind of laugh at him and tease him because he calls it Wellers. But if I sit and have enough of them with him, it is Wellers. But it's just sitting down and talking with him about the same things that that we're talking about, or I don't know, about his childhood and about history and about being a father and about the Catholic school and things like that. I think, depending on what it is that I'm doing, the experience alone will determine on whether or not I like what it is that I'm drinking. Because those smells and that taste at the time, it was such a good experience or a good evening or whatever. So it kind of brings me back to my childhood or memories of good memories and things like that. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, because you're just kind of just sitting there sipping it and talking about it, and I don't know, it's kind of fun.
Yep, sharing with friends and bringing everybody together. And
Sounds like they're preaching to the choir to you, Tony.
Yeah. I mean, that was always like, I can't remember how long I've drank bourbon for.
I don't know. I mean, that was the always thing we've joked about. He's like, "Oh, you've had this one before." I'm like, "I don't remember that." Like, but usually it's because I didn't know what I was drinking. Because he was like, "Yeah, try this one," and
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing until I found one that I was like, "Oh, I like this," and then it was now I can base everything off of that. But he's been having me try probably stuff that I wish I could try now.
Yeah.
Years later,
Antique collection stuff that he was just like, oh yeah, that's pretty tasty.
oh wow,
Those are all unicorns for me.
Right.
Those are all unicorns.
But it's funny when you talk about the smell too. We had I think one of the best, maybe not best piece of advice. That's probably a little too strong. But we had someone on. We've talked to him a couple times where he said, he's like, just if you have a bourbon glass out and whatever you were drinking, he's like, if you leave it set out, like after you drink it, he's like, the next morning, he's like, smell it. He's like, that's what it is without the alcohol. He's like, that way you can he's like, you can really start to pick up all those notes and stuff. And so now
Yeah.
there'd be glasses cut down here the next day, and I'm just I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I see what he's saying now. Like, that's really neat. Like, to be able to and then go back to it and drink it again, and to be able to try to, it's neat.
That's another reason why I love bourbon so much, because my dad's a contractor. He's a mason, but he also had our workshop, his workshop, in our basement of our house. So our house always smelled like wood. So,
yeah.
you know, obviously when, you know, I love, you know, after I've drank the glass of bourbon, I'll set it out in the next day, it just smells like oak, you know, because all the bourbon is aged in oak, and it just immediately brings me back to my childhood. It immediately brings me back to my dad and, you know, all the things that he taught me. And I don't know, it just puts me right back in my house, you know, 30 years ago. And I love it. And it's just another reason why I was just drawn to it. Not to mention, you know, we grew up on a farm. So, you know, and being, you know, in the middle of Ohio and you know, just driving out here, all I saw was corn and wheat.
yeah.
And, you know,
Right.
so I don't know. It just, bourbon to me just is, I don't know. It just speaks to me for so many different ways.
They were talking about the different flavors of bourbon and stuff and let it sit. I had a bottle of Blanton's Gold. I opened up, tried it the first time. I really didn't like it. Let it sit for a month, came back, and I started, like we were talking about the notes and stuff. I really enjoyed it after that. Just letting that alcohol burn off, getting a different flavor to it.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I've tried bottles where it's, oh, this is really good, and then it sits for a month or two, and I go back to it, I'm like, this is not what I had before. So it's I have no idea why it does that, but it's interesting like I said, the complexities of what you get into and things. It's like you go back and it's like, was this as good as I was before, or was it because I had 3 bourbons before that? Like I'm not sure, like if it was still just as good, but it's. Yeah, the complexity is the interesting.
Complexity is a great word, but you're right. After 3 or 4, they're all my favorite.
Yeah, that's usually when it's like, all right, that's probably enough. If I can't tell the difference between the two, it's like, all right, that's probably, especially when I'm drinking part of Tony's collection.
Oh, there's not a bottle in my collection that I'm unwilling to open up or share. So I don't sell bottles. I think I gave about 30 or 40 away last year. I just give them as good. I donated some to Lone Wolf's thing. There was like 7 or 8 good bottles that they raffled off and made some good money. And then, well, like my office staff likes it. So I'll just pop in there with an Angel's Envy or a Buffalo Trace or Blanton's or something, and they're like, oh, they jackpot. Yeah, I just drink a little bit, give a lot away, share even more, and just keep building that camaraderie.
I like it. I like that word. Tony, do you get into like trying to pick out what it smells like and what it tastes like, the different flavors and things like that?
Oh, sometimes. I used to be better at that until I had COVID. And then the smell.
Yeah.
I mean, I could smell something and be like, so that's definitely like one of the Russells. Like that's a Russells or a Wild Turkey, or,
Yeah.
you know, able to pick out like, hey,
That
it's got-
nuttiness,
yeah. For me, it was like a cherry that I would, but now I can't. You know, they did that the other day with 2020 birthday bourbon, and I didn't like it, man. I did not like it. I was like, that I've had other iterations that were fantastic, and that one just didn't do it for me. And I don't know if I was off that night because I had a 4-year Willet, and I usually really like the Willets.
Me too.
And it was the worst bottle of Willet that I've ever had. Which you'll definitely have to try this old Kirk then, because it is a purple top in disguise. That's some Willet liquid right there.
Well, it's interesting too that you talk about the smoke. Because I remember somebody chided me. I still don't know if that's technically a word. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
For like really sticking my nose in it. Like, well, you don't want to like get it real down there. You just kind of like, but my sense of smell is awful. Like, I don't know if I had COVID, and I don't know if I like, if I would have lost my sense of taste, I definitely would have known it. But like, I don't know if I would have known if I lost my sense of smell. Because there's some times where I'm like, my wife has a great sense of smell. Like, she'll smell things and she's like, oh, what is that? I'm like, is it me? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, what is it? Because like, my sense of smell is terrible. So like, I really got to get up in there. But the taste, and maybe those two things are tied together. So maybe that's why I tend to like, not sweet bourbons, like the low proofs, but I like high proofs finished in like port casks, like those. Like I really like that finish of that. Maybe that's why, because maybe it's so flavorful that I can finally taste it, like all the different flavor profiles in it. But I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of times when it's aged too and different things, you know, it kind of takes that burn off a little bit too. So I know that's why my wife really likes Angel's Envy, because it's finished in port, and I think she can taste that. She loves wine, you know, and that sweetness, so she can taste it, and and it kind of takes the edge off a little bit. You don't get so much of that ethanol burn and stuff like that. So I know I liked finished stuff too, but I just love seeing the difference in it. You got the same exact, ingredients in it, and it's been aged the same time, but then they throw it in 6 months in a different kind of barrel. And I've learned so much about the different kinds of regions of wine and things like that all over the country, and, all the different things that they age it in. And it just changes it just ever so slightly. And it's just another bottle I want.
Yeah. That was the same thing with the, was it, I can't remember who makes it now, but the Pritchard Hill. I can't remember who makes it. Jefferson. Yeah. It was like, I saw it and it was like, oh, like Cabernet, like that'd be interesting. Like, sure, like I'll give that a shot. And it's good. I got a bottle of somewhere. But like whatever it is about that, I'd really like to find more. Or I don't even know how it all works, but I know like Jameson does the stout finish.
Yeah,
like I like to see some more of that because I really like that dark. It's like a dark, but it still has that like sweet tinge to it. But like that dark like finish is phenomenal. Like I don't mind the burn as long as the flavor's good.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while, like you get a burn, but like I'll get this like the bitterness in the back of like in my mouth. And it's like, ooh, that's no good. But, like I'm okay with the burn, but just sometimes those flavors just don't mesh quite well for me. Maybe that's because my sense of smell is messed up. I never thought about it until now. Maybe because I can't smell things right. The taster. Because there's times a bunch of times like everyone's like, oh, that's really good. I'm like, oh, that's good. But I mean, whatever. And usually whatever I like, it's like, it's okay. But it's funny to see each their own. Like it's fascinating.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kirk.
I'd say you're talking about different tastes and stuff. There's a bottle called Hill Rock, and it's got like a cab.
Solera.
Yep, phenomenal bottle. So you start off, you take the taste, you taste the bourbon, and when it hits the back of your palate, you taste the cab. It just finishes super strong, different flavors and taste. I'll hit you one time.
I'm gonna have to get a picture of that one so I can keep that one in mind.
Yeah, you probably don't remember this, but you actually had some pretty good ryes finished in.
See?
So you had Yippee Midwinter Nights.
Oh man,
and the Burai.
If it's over a year ago, I don't remember. It doesn't fall on my scale. Yeah, it doesn't fall there. Well, I think it goes back, like I've said, it's something about when you're dealing with something that's complex and deep, until you find a reference point, like wherever you are, whether it be, you guys have mentioned, religion and faith, bourbon, or, any type of spectrum of anything, until you find a reference point to where you're at, it's hard to figure out, all the surrounding pieces of the puzzle, and that was for the bourbon piece. That was for me, it was like, I found, whatever it is about this one particular thing, like I really like this. And then I was able to build around like, all right, I know where I'm at now. I know which way is north for me. Now I can, I have a landscape that I can, map out. I guess maybe going back to the raffle you were doing. And so you said, I don't know if you mentioned this. So it's June 2nd is June 2nd.
Yep,
is that when it ends?
June 2nd. It's going to be 4 to 8. Got a food truck coming.
Oh, so you're doing a whole, like a big event too on top of it. Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. We wanted to, again, another thing just to build community, with our school. And it's been a while. We have a new priest at our congregation, which he's amazing. His homilies just, I honestly sit there in my pew and I feel like he's talking to me, which is a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. Right. But we were really blessed to have him come in and do the great job that he's done in a short amount of time. And he's been very supportive of what it is that we're doing here, and very supportive of our little school. So that's been a really, really good thing. But so we wanted to be able to bring the community together around this. So we're going to have it's going to be live stream. It's going to be a live stream event. So, you don't have to be present in order to, if you do win a bottle, you don't have to be there. We'll get it to you, or we'll contact you and you can come pick it up. Or we'll get it to you one way or another. But but we wanted to have some community thing there. So we're gonna have a food truck and do some tasting and things like that with some of the things that we have in the raffle. And we'll have a DJ, and we're gonna make a night of it, and hopefully our community shows up. I think a lot of our live event tickets that we sold, I think we sold a lot of those. So I mean, that'll be a fun night. So we get these tickets sold, and it'll be an interesting evening.
Yeah, we think we only got about 40 of the live tickets left.
Oh, no kidding.
They've been going pretty quick. We only, 150 of them.
Oh,
and
nice.
stuff, because we don't want to get it too big and stuff. We want people to enjoy themselves.
Right.
Not be too packed in there, but be able to move around, function, have a nice flow, enjoy themselves. And
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it because we've been to some events. We just went to one. Was it last summer? We went to a festival, and it was like either they didn't plan this properly or they sold way too many tickets because this
Yeah.
is now it's like no thanks. Like I want nothing to do with it. Like so it's good to keep that. Well, and at the same time, you talk about that community. Like you can't have a community when you're all shoved in a sardine can.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, did you want to? Is this about the community or was this about just making money?
Yeah.
So that's really neat.
that's,
yeah.
I'd say it's about both and stuff for us. We want to make sure we bring the parents in, show them we're a fun group. And we talked about the bingo program, trying to get people in there and be positive and say, hey, come here, we're going to have fun and be adults and stuff. We're also here supporting our kids at the same
Right.
time. So we can generate the revenue and show off our school at the same time.
Use it as an enrollment, a marketing tool too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
everybody on that's live streaming that might not be Catholic or might not know much about our Catholic school or see how much they like Kirk live stream.
Are you doing a big presentation? Are you, Kirk?
I guess so.
He's like I am now.
I think he
Speech?
should.
Is there a
I think he
speech?
should,
I think there should
yeah.
be a speech
I think he should.
boy.
for sure.
It's on the agenda now.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I tell you. He's like,
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe after a few more bourbons, here we go.
Be able to have the courage to get up there and do it.
Totally have courage.
Nothing's gonna happen. It's all right. That's super neat. So you have how many bottle? You said there was
150,
150 bottles, and you're only selling it. You're capping it.
1,500 tickets.
1,500.
That's pretty. That's also like that's something that hit me that you have a cap to it.
Yeah.
Because most people would just be like, well, you sell as many as you can, then we'll pull names out of the hat.
Yeah.
So that's there's like a set.
Yeah.
You know what's happening.
We wanted the odds to be pretty good. 1 in 10. I mean, those are decent odds. Because we don't have Pappy Van Winkle. So, and that's another thing too that maybe people need to understand too is that we weren't able to do this before the state of Ohio changed the way that they do their laws. You're not allowed to raffle bourbon in the state of Ohio up until January. So they changed the laws in which if you buy the alcohol in Ohio, you can do the raffle. So, it's almost impossible to get a Pappy Van Winkle unless you win the state lottery and get a Pappy Van Winkle, in which, there's only, about 80 of them in which they're gonna raffle off or, do in their lottery. So, we were stuck to the allocated bourbon that they're here in Ohio. And for anybody that knows that, those are limited, obviously. And, there's people standing in line, at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning waiting to get, 3 bottles that they're going to put on the
Them
shelf.
taters.
Those taters, exactly. So fortunately for us, I have a tater sitting to my left who is.
Well, I don't know.
very-
I've seen his personal collection, so I don't. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
say it. Complete tater, right?
But again, we couldn't do this without Kirk and his contacts and everything like that, because he's able to get, we've got some Blood Oath in there. We've got, we've got some E.H. Taylor in there. We've got some Woodford, the collection series, the 17
Master
series.
Collections.
Tony, I can't think of what it's called right now.
Master's collection.
Master's
yeah.
Collection, yeah. We've got Kirk. Name some of these other
We got
bottles
the
out there.
Wellet 4-year rye.
Hmm.
We picked up a Weller 12-year through the state lottery. We won that. We were able to get something good like that, which normally you're not going to get in Ohio. You'd get down in probably South Carolina and pay an arm and a leg probably $500-$600.
And that says a lot. I mean, the fact that
Yeah.
you won something on raffle,
Yeah.
and now you're raffling it off again.
Correct.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
That's
And like a bottle like that, it's like if you win in the raffle, like for instance, it's a $45 bottle, but we talked about the secondary market and stuff, $500.
Yeah.
It gets crazy.
So we've got some home run hitters in there. I know I have an extensive collection. It pains me to see it sometime because I've spent way too much money on it. But there's a lot of bottles in there that I want. So I've bought probably too many tickets, and so for those that are just starting a collection or aren't sure whether or not they want to buy a ticket. I mean, there's some really really good bottles in there that I want.
Like the Bookers.
Yeah,
too.
like the Bookers. Those are all really really good bourbons, and they're hard to find. You can't just walk into the liquor store and pull those off the shelf. You got to get you either got to be standing in line at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you've got to get really really lucky. So we're excited. I think I think we have what it takes to get these tickets sold. We just got to get our name out there. We just got to get it out there to the people in the state and hopefully be able to push those tickets. We're on Facebook. We have our own website, which is a fatherscommitment.org. You can check out all the bottles on there. They're all listed on there. There's pictures of them. And you can buy tickets. You can buy raffle tickets. You can just donate to the event. Obviously we had to buy all these bottles. So we've had some donors out there that have been really, really generous in being able to give us the funds to even get this $150 bottle collection. But anyway, you can buy tickets and you can buy tickets to the event and everything like that. So it's a one-stop shop on our website. So just a matter of getting the word out there.
Right. Well, I think it's a big piece of it too, is where I've seen, obviously having a kid in school, it's like you have all these fundraisers and different things, and we're trying to raise money for this, trying to raise money for that, and it's like, yeah, it always kills me. I remember being a kid in school and like bringing home like the magazines of like whatever it is, like cookie dough and all this like
wrapping paper.
Yeah, wrapping paper, and it's like, oh, like, and then like I don't want to buy your crappy candles. I'm sorry, like I don't like or whatever it is. Like, can I just give you $50? Like, can I just donate money?
Yeah.
Because I'd much rather just give you money because you're actually going to be able to get it. But like having a fundraiser that has something that like people like, not only for a cause that they want to give to, but the chances of actually getting something that they're like excited about.
Yeah.
That's a big key. So like so that's like seeing this, it's a really good idea. And it's,
what's different. And again, I've got nothing against candles and I've got nothing against wrapping paper.
I love
My
candles and
mom
wrapping paper.
loves wrapping paper and candles. We're just trying to, we're just trying to, I don't know, just market to a little different crowd.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be fun and different. And again, like we know, I mean, the bourbon craze it's out of control at this point. Like it's big business. So we thought that we could kind of rest on those coattails a little bit.
Well, let's think. I would rather pay $50 to a charitable foundation or a fundraiser and get nothing and have the chance of getting something I really want versus paying $50 for like a dozen frozen cookies. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
which I don't need to be eating to begin with.
Yeah, I don't need that. Like, I don't need to pay $30 for a small pot of Mums. Flour. I don't need, I can go to the store and buy 10 of those for that price. Like, so like the chances that I'll get something that's kind of cool. Okay. Now you got me.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what we're hoping for. That's what I lay up at night hoping for.
Sleepless nights.
I was gonna say, I don't know, the Samoas pair pretty well with some cask strength bourbon. So.
That's true. Well, all right. Girl Scout cookies, those don't count.
That's a whole
different.
I have a friend of mine that when he literally buys 50 boxes of those Samoas when my kids.
They're so good.
Oh my gosh.
Does he freeze them?
He puts them in the freezer.
Of course he
does.
does.
Year round, like a box a month. I think. I don't know.
You might have me there.
Yeah. Good.
Girl Scout cookies and bourbon. That you should have paired them up.
That's what I was thinking.
Next time.
I wonder, because are those only available during like a certain time of year? Like how are those?
Yeah,
are they controlled more than bourbon is?
Probably.
The allocation of Girl Scout.
The allocation of Girl Scout cookies.
Probably. I've seen some of those Girl Scout troop leaders. They are serious about those Girl Scout cookies.
It'd have to be.
Yeah.
Maybe a pair of peanut butter cup.
Ooh, I don't need any peanut butter in my bourbon. We've done that before. I don't need any of that. It's too.
Peanut butter is my favorite food, and I do not like it in bourbon. The peanut butter infused.
Yeah, I'm out. It's like a cheese and wine.
Yeah,
I'm good with cheese and I'm good with wine, but I don't want you to like drop cheese in my wine. No, I don't need
soaking cheese in my wine. No, thank you.
Some of the Jack Daniels have a pretty heavy like peanut profile.
Yeah.
Right. Peanut profile is different than peanut.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, they take like a jar of like peanut butter syrup, and like.
I have a bottle of it's a Russell's Reserve store pick, and I think it was a store out of South Carolina, and it tastes like it tastes like peanut butter, and I love that. But it's just the mash bill and how it is they aged and stuff like that. But some of that squirrel, I don't know what it's called, but man, oh boy. That's rough.
Yeah, even I'm a big fan of big fan of Bird Dog. Like for the price, like that like even like their 7. I love they call it a 7-year, but is that really a 7-year? Because I feel like that they can't sell that 7-year for $30 or whatever it is. But their peanut butter bourbon, it's like no, No, stop it. Just stay with the regular because it's decent, but like it just feels like tastes like syrup, and it's like
Yep. That's a good way to put like syrup.
It's like
too
no.
much.
Yeah, maybe it might be good on pancakes. Maybe put
Oh,
a little
man,
bourbon
there
on my
we go.
pancakes. Mix it up.
My mother-in-law loves that bourbon cream, like that Buffalo
Yeah.
Trace bourbon cream.
I've
like
never had that.
I like that a lot, but I don't know. I can't do
Did
that.
she mix it with coffee?
You've had
Oh.
you've had that.
Oh,
I,
see?
I made a coffee for you working on our deck. And I
Oh well,
had
yeah,
that.
okay, yeah.
He loved
That's one of my favorite. Like, I'll take on a certain like cold Saturday mornings, or my Christmas morning. I get up, make some coffee. I take about like a half to like a third of a packet of hot chocolate, and then a little bit of bourbon, just a dash of milk.
That's the go-to.
Yeah, it's a nice little
I was like, I got a new tradition.
nice little like maybe a little peppermint in there for Christmas.
You save that for Christmas?
Basic white boy stuff.
That's my daily routine before I go to jail.
That's a Tuesday.
That's
That's Tuesday.
That's how I deal with work.
yeah, I like to keep it on at least the weekend mornings. Weekend mornings, not weekdays. You gotta can't do that. I like to keep that vodka and orange juice.
So Tony, amen. Tony, what's your favorite? Like, what is your? Let me do this. Let's do this. What's your everyday drinker? And then what is your favorite rye and your favorite bourbon?
Yeah, I think I've answered that question before at one point.
Not to him.
No, not at all. I was just trying to think what my answers are and if they've changed. So I would say, I drink a lot of Buffalo Trace. And anytime they're store picks, like I usually buy them just by the case. Like I'll get 12 at a time. And like I said, I usually they last like about a month between drinking and giving. And so, because I give a lot away. Probably Buffalo Trace, man, just as the everyday.
Yeah.
So, rye. Let me think here.
Putting you on the spot. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. There's just a lot of
There's
a lot of ryes that I've drank. So, is there anything attached to this rye, or is it just any rye I've ever tried? Is it?
I would say as long as you can categorize it as a rye.
Okay. So some of like the 5 and 6 year Willets,
Okay.
are absolutely fantastic.
I love Willet rye.
So it's very like dessert.
Yeah.
Decadent.
Yeah.
So I would probably say, that not that 4's not good, but you start getting into some of those older ones and it's like, these are fantastic. And then let's see, then just bourbon. Was that the other one? Let's see. I do like George T. Stagg.
Oh, wow. Heavy hitter.
I do like that one. Trying to think what else.
He's going through his like Rolodex
Yeah,
of bourbons at this point.
Some of the Russell store picks, like I would put them up against anything.
Me too.
Like
Me too.
anything.
Me too. If I see a Russell store pick, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, hands that
Yep.
same.
It's just to me. It's just I don't know. That's the profile I like. It's just really really good. And again, but a lot of it I get that peanut butter, and so I don't know. That's kind of me.
I'm trying to think of what else. I'm trying to think of
Good.
stuff that I haven't had for a while, or like
That you wish you had.
old.
Right.
Oh, there's plenty of stuff I wish I had, but we're getting towards like the $3,000+ range for some of those bottles. So,
Stop it.
well, you get into some of like the
King of Kentucky.
yeah. Let me think here. Yeah, I just stick with the George T. Stagg. So.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with that. That's just about everybody's unicorn, I guess. Until you get into the old Dusties, they're unattainable.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Man, I'd say one of my everyday drinkers, probably the H. Taylor. It's a nice, easy drink.
The small batch or the single barrel? Or
Single barrel is delicious and stuff. I got one of those, but I'd say I just like drinking the small batch everyday drinker. It's nice, easy going. We got my wife started drinking that. She likes the Eagle Rare, but I'd say rye. I would talk to Casey about the Alberta Premium.
yeah.
That's really good.
I've had that
Super
before. That
good.
is good.
Yeah.
See, that's a name I remember. I've had that in the last year,
See,
so
I
I can
haven't-
remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I haven't had as many rides as probably you guys and stuff, but just starting to get into that, dabble my toe in that.
Yeah, that one's definitely a flavor bomb after it's open for a couple weeks. And I think, are they on their third batch? So I think
it's about right.
Yeah, I think I just picked up one of those the other day.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that one compares to the second and first.
We've got a couple of those in the raffles.
Yep. And you can still find those on the shelf too. It's a good $70 bottle.
I like them because they're twist tops.
Right.
There's something about twist tops. I love it. I'm like,
Makes
I
me
paid
feel
$70
fancy.
for this. Yeah, it's a twist top. I love it.
No cork, nothing. Just to take it off.
Yep. And I said a George T. Stacked. I've had that once and phenomenal. Sit down and have a bottle like that. And half of it's just fine in that bottle and tasting it. Sometimes you kind of put the standards too high on a bottle, and that's one I tried. I'm like, it's cracked up with everything.
Let me add this. So let me add this to the three biggest disappointment.
Ooh.
I thought Bland's was overrated. That's me and stuff. I like it, but I think I hyped it up too much in my head.
Yeah.
It's a cool horse.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
It's a cool horse.
I've got like 10 of them at the house. I love the horse.
That horse. I was going to say, for someone
It
who
looks
doesn't like
cool.
Blands, you got a lot of Blands.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
No, I like the gold.
Yeah.
And
Straight from the barrel. Have you tried that
I
one?
have not. I'm trying to get that one next.
So that one's probably my, I'm not huge on Blanton's either, but the straight from the barrel, or if you can get a store pick that's 5 or below for the rick houses, for the level in the rick house, 5 or below is money. I've got one from number 2, and it is like, it's wild. It has like this almost a grape taste, like it's crazy.
Yeah, I try not to get into the hype of the Blantons, but it is a cool horse. It's a pretty looking bottle.
It's a neat horse.
And, I just on principle alone, I tried to stay away from it just because it's so hyped up and it's so overpriced on the secondary market and everything like that. But I've got a bottle of the straight from the barrel, and it is
It's legit.
good. It
Yeah.
is good. It's really good. I've never had a store pick before, but that straight from the barrel it's good.
Did you get it before they started releasing it stateside?
Yes.
Okay, so is that stateside? Do you know if it's 750 mil? Like yours is probably 700.
Mine's a 700,
Yeah.
yeah. And I got mine on an auction.
Okay.
So when it was out of California. But mine's a 700 milliliter.
Do you know when they brought them stateside if they went to 750s?
I don't know, and honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, Tony, I thought I got scammed because when it came in the mail, the bottle was a little bit smaller,
Yeah, you're like,
obviously.
what the heck?
Yeah, but then obviously I did a little bit of research and it was legit. But it was a 2019 dump. But I don't know if that's when they went to that or not.
You guys are talking way out of my league right now. I don't know any of that stuff. I know.
It's,
What are your
useless
you
knowledge.
asked the question? So what's your go-to in your?
My everyday drinker is I like Wild Turkey 101. I mean, I just think for the price.
Oh, yeah.
it is just such a good bourbon, and I think I don't know if it just reminds me of back when I was in college, but you look at it as just something you're just going to take shots with, and but now that I've gotten into this a little bit and and tasting different things and stuff like that, I just keep coming back to that. And again, I think it's that nuttier profile and stuff like that, but
Okay,
it holds up in cocktails and things like that. I like to mix bourbon with ginger ale, and it still keeps that spice and stuff like that. So I love Wild Turkey 101. Outside of that, I love Old Forester. I'm a Brown Foreman fan. I love everything Old Forester. I love that cherry note, that sweet cherry note. Tony, I've never had that.
Slide that one over to him.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm all over it.
Gotta try
I've
it.
never had that single barrel before, but I love the Old Forester birthday bourbon. The 2016, 2017, 2018. Those are my unicorn. I'm one of these days I'll try to find it, but I think that just the search or the hunt.
Mhm.
I think I enjoy that too. Like, I don't know, it keeps me young. I think looking for these bourbons and trading bourbons and things like that with the friends and stuff that I have, and I've met some really, really cool people all over the country that that enjoy bourbon, and I being a police officer, other police officers in other states and stuff like that I've met in training and things like that. So again, it's that camaraderie and that community and things like that. I just really love doing that, and trying to find some of the bottles that I want, some of the bottles that I can't find here in Ohio. But yeah, I'm an Old Forester guy. The Old Forester, the 1910, the 1920. For the price, I think those are the best $50 bottles that you're going to buy, that you can find, that are readily available anywhere in the country. Do
you ever mix them? 1915.
I have.
Proof it up a little bit.
1915.
And I really did like it. I like I like the flavors, so
Yeah.
you get the higher barrel proof. I'm a barrel proof guy, but sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming for me. I like that right around that 110, 115
Mhm.
proof point. Like that's just kind of my wheelhouse. And I can still function the next day. But
Right.
yeah, so
That's important.
yeah, and I've got an Old Forester rye, which is an Old Forester rye single barrel, which is harder to come by, and I love it. I love everything about Old Forester.
Is that the green label one?
Yeah,
I haven't had that one actually.
man, it is so good. Man, it's a high proof and it's spicy, and you've got to have a tolerance for it, because otherwise it'll my wife wouldn't even
Sign me up.
wouldn't even
Yeah.
go for it. Yeah,
Sign
me too.
You got to slide in there slowly. you
Yeah,
know?
I had, but my unit, I had a King of Kentucky. I tasted a King of Kentucky when I was down at Bardstown, which if anyone gets a chance to go down to Kentucky, and the Bardstown distillery is new, but I think they do it really, really right, and they're more of a blender, which again gets you into the intricacies of bourbon and stuff like that. You've got your craft distilleries, the small mom and pop shops and stuff like that, which I just love. Just reminds me of my grandma's house. But and then you got the big distillers like the Buffalo Trace and stuff like that. But and then you got people now that are using other people's bourbon, and they're blending it like mad scientists, and they're coming up with some really, really good stuff. So, but if you get a chance to go out there to that distillery, it is so awesome. They just do a really, really good job, and they have a really good restaurant there and everything like that. But I had a King of Kentucky, and I'm telling you, this is the honest to God truth. And again, I'm a smell guy. I love the smell of the bourbon and stuff like that. I walked around that distillery and did their tour for an hour, and never drank the King of Kentucky until the end. I just walked around and smelled it. I mean, it was so rich and full, and it was just such a cool experience. But one of these days, maybe I'll own a King of Kentucky, but they're about impossible to find. So that's kind of my unicorn. But I don't. What is your biggest disappointment, Tony? Like, I don't ever really thought about that. Like at all.
I have two of them.
I
I don't even like saying them, man. So
You asked.
there were almost
You gotta
three.
do it
So
now.
the first one was William LaRue Weller.
Okay.
I think I had the 18 and 19, and I was like, what is all the hype about?
No kidding.
Like a lot of heat, not a lot of flavor. And then I had the 20, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this thing's
So it depends on the dump date.
definitely some
Yeah.
awesome layers there. So that was the initial one, but it came back around. Ego Rare 17, not that impressed. And I only had that one once. And then probably my biggest was Booker's Rye, and I wanted to like it so bad, and I had it twice, and I like ryes.
Yeah,
dude, just wasn't happening for me. Wasn't happening, and I've never been like super impressed by any of the Pappies. The 15 and the 12 are like pretty tasty.
Yeah.
20 and 23 are, you're getting like very oaky.
Yep.
I think that's biggest disappointment though. So
I've had the Pappy 10, or the old Rip 10. Those bourbon aficionados are going to get mad at me.
I know.
I call it Pappy.
I was gonna say I threw the 12 in there, and I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah. But I've had the 10, I've had the 15, and same thing. I just wasn't blown away. Like I have been with some other things, but I enjoy finding things that are cheaper that'll stand up or hold up to some of those other things. I really do enjoy being able to find something that maybe even just be on the shelf, or even like a craft distiller that's doing things really, really well, and is able to pull off something that, in my opinion, is better than a Pappy Van Winkle that you're paying $2,000 for on the secondary market, if it's something you really, really want. But I'm not one of those guys that has to have something just because of the name.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. I really do enjoy drinking my bourbon. I don't necessarily feel like I'm a collector. I'm buying it. I want to be able to drink it, and I want to be able to share it. I know there's a lot of people out there that they're holding on to these things like they're going to pass it on to their kids or something. I guess I'm not really sure, but I think that's what it's about, is sharing it. And again, I walk in here and you guys got a bunch of bottles on the table that of some really, really good stuff that I haven't had, and you're willing to share it and stuff like that. So I think that's what it's all about. That little bit of community.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of it, and that's I guess realizing that as I've started to get into it, because like I said, like if it's beyond a year, like I don't know, but in the last year, like okay, I found what I've liked. and starting to, branch out and learn those things. But then like you start talking to these, people and all the different things, they like, and the communities that they're branched away from that. And it's just really interesting to see, the complexity that, like we've said, in the bourbon, transfers into the complexity of the groups and the people and, the just the communities, like you said, around those things.
Yeah.
It's really neat to see something like that just people can get together, whatever it is. There's movie groups and, different, all these different clubs and all these communities and different things around certain things. So it's like, it's neat to, that like bourbon is kind of one of those things where I've seen like, it's people from all different,
Different walks.
yeah, different walks of life, like whatever it might be. And it's like, oh, like it's neat to see how when those communities end up developing in between communities that you would think like, oh, well, this person, like, person A and person B never would necessarily like ever intermingle.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's like someone mentions bourbon. It's like, oh, what? Like, and then all of a sudden you have these two people that would never, connect.
Yeah.
Talking about the complexities and inner workings of bourbon. It's like, at first it was like, oh, I mean, okay, a little geeky, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing like, oh, where it's at. And it's like how it all develops. It's like, okay, like this is neat.
Yeah.
Like, this is really neat to see.
It's like some of the friendships we've built standing in these lines and stuff. Some of the older ladies that are in the lines, like we have a friend named Melanie. She's not affiliated with our church and stuff, but she knows what we're doing for our kids. She doesn't drink bourbon, but she goes out for her nephew, gets it for him. He's a soldier and stuff, so he can have it. And then she's helping us get bottles. Just making these friendships with these people and having the talks and explaining her different tastes for her nephew and some of the older people in the lines and stuff. Like you said, people have been around for 15, 20 years in the game and stuff, and different notes and stuff they're tasting to see if our palates are related and if we're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, we have a buddy that he travels a lot. So like Tony was like,
he's my number one mule.
Yeah. Now
I haven't been in a liquor store in 6 months. And in the last 6 months, I don't even want to say it on the mic. So.
Yeah, he's collected a lot of bourbon. And I was like, look, man, I said, before you start getting him in, because he didn't really drink. He had drank, but he's like, like, I'm not really.
Yeah.
The first time we had him, I think he was on the show and they were like, oh, I'll try this. And he was like, ooh, that's oof. No.
Yeah.
And now like 4 months later,
he's got 75 bottles.
Yeah, he just comes to my house. He's like, I got another delivery for Tony. And he's like bringing boxes.
There'll be like 30 at a time that he drops off.
Yeah, so. It's like, but now he's like, oh, have you tried this? This one's so good. Like this, that.
Yeah.
And then now he's starting to make friends in the bourbon community that he would never even contact. And it's like, this is why it's neat to see.
Oh, the tangled web we weave.
The underground bourbon community.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see all these communities branching out and where they end up. It's neat to see for sure.
I was in the coffee house in Doylestown a couple of days ago. It was one day last week, and a woman I've known my entire life, and she and I wouldn't necessarily think that she would be someone that's drinking bourbon or would have any idea. She walked right up to me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I love Woodford Reserve, and I can't wait." So like it's just been neat to see the people that have the same passion that I do, because I'm kind of putting it out there and people are seeing it, and that are coming up to me, and I now know that they've got the same sickness I do. So it's fun now that we have something else that we can talk about and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and even that, it's being able to find connections to make with people has been, like I mentioned, like us doing this is where we've talked to, I mean, people that I would never even imagine talking to, whether he knows them or I know them, or it's, we have a guest on and they know somebody. They're like, oh, you need to talk to this person. You need to talk to this person. It's like, okay, well, sure. Why not? And it's really neat we think that we're all so entirely different, or, this person on this left side or right side or upside or downside, whatever it is. And it's like, when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, it's like, oh wait, you like this? What about this? And then you realize we can be vastly different, but if we can connect on these little things here and there, and that's what makes a community, right? Like, you need all the spider webs, you need all the segments of the spider web to make the spider web. Even they're all different. You need all those pieces of the puzzle to.
What I think it's important, because I think I think at least in raising children, Fred, it's difficult, and you try to do the best you can. But I think, one of the best things my dad taught me is that it's okay for other people to disagree with you. But know that, because at the end of the day, we all have a heart that beats, and, we all at the end of the day want the same things, to be happy, and to have relationships, that are meaningful. But man, it wouldn't be very fun if everybody had the same exact opinion as you. So I know, I just think it's important that, I think it's really cool that, you guys are kind of putting yourselves out there and open-minded to having people in here that I'm sure sat across from you at this table and had different opinions than you, or maybe something that you don't necessarily agree with or don't necessarily like, but are open-minded enough to be curious about it and see if it might be something that hits a nerve, or, or something you could potentially be passionate about.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. We've said it, and I've even said it before, where it may not seem like it, as we're having these conversations. And I think that's often the way it goes, is when you have a conversation with somebody, and if you're open enough to listen to them and to engage and to contemplate what they're saying, there's a lot of times where you have, that dialogue with somebody, and like you said, whether you disagree or you even all the way to don't like what they say, whatever it is, and you walk away from it. And if you can just kind of hold on to it and think about it and consider it, and then later, it might be a day, it might be 2 days, or it might be, we've had times like in the moment where I'm like sitting here going, oh, this person's like challenging my entire like thought process here. Like, okay, like, but being able to do that, I might walk away a week later and go, no, I still think what I think. I respect that person for their opinion, but
Sure.
that's their opinion. But there's times where like I've had people change my mind in the second. And, a lot of times we think that if we run into a conflict with somebody as we're having a conversation, that it's, there should be obvious conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, not necessarily. Maybe sometimes that conflict is just in our head.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, okay, like you're trying to reconcile these things as they're being said to you. And like a lot of times you can't until it's, set in. Like I said, I've had my mind changed in this chair right here talking to people plenty of times where I didn't expect it, and it's like being able to recognize that and go, oh, okay, like maybe I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's a good thing
Yeah.
that I don't have it all figured out.
You
And
take time to listen to somebody break it down and why they feel how they do, and take
Yeah.
it in, and you're like, you know what? You're right about that.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's just growth.
Right.
I was,
This-
I was literally
yeah.
thinking that conflict or stress equals growth.
yeah.
And then to what you said, just listening, I mean, you got 2 ears and 2 eyes for a reason and only 1 mouth. So
Mhm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we only get one chance at this, and if I can't be better than what I was today, then I'm just not trying hard enough. And I think sometimes, having the humility to understand that I don't know everything, and that what I necessarily, what I was taught or what I've always known, or what my parents' beliefs are, or what my family's beliefs are. That there might be a better or a different way to think about those things. I think is just having the wherewithal to understand that possibility is out there, and just take a second to think about it. And you never know what what's going to come out at the other end. But I think it's important what you guys are doing, and just getting those things out there and talking about those things. I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's in the same, we have inadvertently, it's not necessarily taking the direction, but we've come across a lot of, business owners and local people. And when we started this, we were basically just, I don't know, just talking crap and
Yeah.
drinking a lot of bourbon. But like yeah,
yeah,
there's
get
plenty
you
out
some.
there. Yeah, get you some. We've realized that, like, there's so many people within our general vicinity that are doing like super awesome things, whether it be, entrepreneurs or, fundraisers or, whatever it might be. Like, you realize that this community that we have around us, there's so many things going on that we often think, particularly in this area, Ohio, Northeast Ohio, where it's just kind of like, oh, it's just farmland and, I don't know, football. like, maybe not quite as good as Texas, but something like that.
Well, I might disagree.
You got Columbus somewhat nearby, but like that's maybe growing up in this kind of area. That's kind of like what you think. It's just like, oh, it's just kind of out here, like people just living lives like not quite hillbillies, not quite city folk, not quite really anything. We're just left floating out in the ether, and you realize like, we have all these business owners doing these things, and we have these people just doing just awesome things like all around us every day that we just never realize it until we sit down and hear their stories. And it's like, okay, this is cool. Like you don't have to, live in LA or New York or whatever it is to like do something cool. Like,
yeah,
there's cool people all around us all of the time. All you have to do is, and I'm not very good at this at all, like in public, but like strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to say, like, if you strike up a conversation with me in the grocery line, I'm gonna do my best to be nice, but I'm gonna start sweating and I'm gonna feel real uncomfortable and I'm gonna hope you stop talking to me. But if I know, like, we're both engaging in a conversation, you're not just some weirdo, because there's a lot of those out there too.
Right?
I have a wild story that we can talk about later about weirdos. But real quick side. Did you guys see the guy? I think he's from, I want to say it's Holland, but I don't think so. He's walking across all the continents.
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen like any video or picture.
So
of it.
he just came through Worcester. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? So he started walking through the United States, and he's intentionally not like walking through big cities. He's just trying to walk from coast to coast. And he'll like Flex Yoga of Worcester, like put him up, and they have an apartment above their studio. They put him up in one night, and then like he took one rest day in the hotel, and Worcester like was like, hey, they gave him the presidential suite and just let him like hang out. So he's like documenting his entire trip around, like he just walks, and he's like he has a it's like a slow like it's kind of like our little rickshaw he like carries with him, and he's just walking, and he'll just go to town. He'll be like, hey, is anybody like putting me up? Like, does anybody have a place I can stay? Like I think he stayed in like a limousine in Canton. And then as he walked across, like he came into Worcester, and then they put him up in like this, basically like this 4-star hotel room. And then I think he'll like camped in the middle of a field the next night. So it's just like
experience.
It's probably best he stays out of the big city. I don't know if he can make it out. I mean,
but
Well, say if he goes through LA, you might be able to stock up as long as it's $900 or less, or $800 or less.
Right. Or he'll fit right in with all the tents along the road. But he had a I think it's called I Walk. To find it. But we invited him on the show when he was. I was like, hey, like, you guys, like, I'd love to have you on, but he obviously was super busy walking and doing the whole things. But he had a pretty not so great interaction recently, just before he left Ohio, like just as he was crossing into the Indiana state line,
couldn't make it out.
And I'm like, man, like this had to happen in Ohio. But we don't have to get into it because it was pretty disturbing. But it was like, but you have this person that just, we hear a lot here about like people like going over to Europe and like backpacking across Europe. Like you don't hear too many people backpacking across the United States. Like,
what's he doing it for?
I think just to connect with people, and just to, he'll literally just walk, and then like if somebody hey, if you want to put me up a night, that's great. If not, like, he'll stop and talk to people, and
that's pretty deep.
He just goes and just goes just to connect with people. Like he'll stop along his route and sit on, someone's front porch and talk to him for a little while and just keep on going. So it's like that you realize at the end of the day, what do you really need? Food, water, a little bit of shelter. Yeah. And, without that, I mean, I think human connection's got to be up on that list.
Relationships are everything. I mean, they really are. Like, it just doesn't seem worth it if it's not about the people that you meet and the people you care about, and again, the people that have the same beliefs as you, and also the people who don't. And I'm sure there's a lesson to learn from him. I'm not backpacking across the country to do it, but I'm sure there's a lesson.
just growing in period.
Yeah, I think my profession has probably made me a little bit more introverted than I probably should be. But I don't think there's ever been a situation in which I really got to know somebody that I couldn't take something away from that and say, you know, I'm better because I know that, or
Right.
you know, or because that relationship that I built, that isn't somebody now that's in my life that that holds a piece of me. So I'm definitely a lesson to be learned there. I'm not backpacking across the country to meet anybody.
That's something we've talked about before, that Harvard did like I think it was like a 70-year longitudinal study, and I believe there were 2 books, maybe 3, and it was like, what does success mean to you? And so they I think it was all males, but they followed like their marriages, they followed their health, their diseases, their careers, their income, their children. And you know, people were like, hey, once they hit about 70,000 a year, that was good. But meaningful relationships was like the number one thing that was, you know, they said this is success, these meaningful relationships. So
I like that.
definitely something to be said about that. And then something you said too, and we kind of looked at each other. I know you were thinking the 24-hour clone principle earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you were talking about,
Yeah.
you were like, every day, like I got to get better. Like, you know, I want to get better, become, you know, that best version of me to kind of give back to the world, if you will. And that was something, I think that was from Mike Glover. But the 24-hour clone principle, that just like, imagine at the end of the day, you got to fight yourself, either physically or mentally, spiritually, whatever. And so throughout the day, like you need to learn something. You need to have a new skill set that's built upon, or a skill set you already have, build on that. And you need to defeat yourself at the end of the day. So
I like
It's like
that.
getting better each
Yeah,
day.
that's deep. Yeah, that's deep.
Like having friends helping you push each other to become a better person and instilling on your kids. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is show our kids good community service and building friendships along the way and working hard.
sounds like iron sharpening iron.
There is no way that I would get on a podcast if it wasn't for my girls. I can tell you that right now. There's no way. No
Why
way.
do you say that?
Well, I'm not exactly the most outgoing person on planet Earth, and again, I think, you know, my profession for the last 16 or 17 years is definitely, you know, it almost caused you to put up a little bit of a wall, because, you know, a lot of the things that we see in humanity is the worst of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's unfortunate, but I mean, everything I do are for those 3 little girls. So if I got to get on a podcast to push this fundraiser, you know, in order to make this successful, and again, keep the lights on for one more day, I'll do whatever it takes. But Tony, I think there's a lot to that. I mean, I think that man or woman in the mirror. I mean, I think that is our only battle every single day. And if we can win that battle, or if we can, if nothing else, be perseverant in that quest. I think at the end of the day, I can look back and say this life was worth it.
Yeah. Did you try hard enough?
Yeah.
Did
Yep.
you try it all?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and if it makes you feel any better, I never would have done this 2 years ago. Like, it was something that when we started, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is not, maybe it was part of that. I don't know if we were recording when we talked about it, that music, Tony, because we started this when it was kind of, we started doing music, and Tony's like, well, you gotta get that guitar, you gotta play it. I'm like, okay. Then he's like, well, now we gotta go play out. I'm like, I don't want no part of that. But I don't know. It was something about, there was something that happened. There's a lot of things that happened. But that, I guess, opening up to people has been equally the most terrifying and rewarding thing that I've ever had. Is, you know, whether it be opening up to, you know, your wife or your husband or your kids, that honestly, probably opening up to your kids is probably more terrifying than anything.
Yep.
Like, cause you think like, well, they're looking at me like I know everything, and I got it all on lockdown, and like, we got this all figured out. And then I remember the first time, like, sitting down with the kid and like, look, I don't know what I'm doing, bro.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure what to tell 'em.
I don't know what to tell you, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is your first time doing this. You know, as my kid, this is my first time as a parent. Like,
You can hear your parents laughing in the background.
yeah, like, yeah.
I told you
told
so.
you.
Go get it. Go get it, buddy. Go get it.
Yeah. And but the more I've done it, and the more, you know, we get to sit across the table and have conversations, and, you know, have that, you know, communion in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, like, there's something bigger here. Like, there's something that's worth it. Like, this all just like things. I guess maybe this is what it is. The more you try and put yourself out there, obviously to the right people, the more you realize that like doing it is worth it.
Yeah.
And it, whatever you want to call it, putting, I can't remember what they call it now. Putting it out in the universe, whatever it is, like the more good you put out, it's hopefully more good you get back.
Good
and
karma.
I think it's karma, whatever you want to call it. Like it just seems to work. Like,
Yeah.
So in the better you try to be, even if life doesn't always go your way, it's like, well, at least you have that. Hey, I tried. I
Yep.
did my best. I put it out there.
And learning something from it.
Yeah. And getting better, being that, hey, I'm better. I don't know if you're always going to win it every day. I sure, at least I don't.
Some days you blast off, some days you smoke.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Sturge a line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
like
That's how it goes. But you know what? You'll never blast off if you don't try.
That's right.
You
Well,
know?
that's man in the arena right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I don't think that I don't think I've ever actually said this out loud, but I truly believe in my heart that my goal in life or like my pinnacle was to be a father. And that doesn't mean, the day that my oldest daughter was born, that is every single day.
Yeah.
And I really have made a real effort to just talk to my kids about everything, like even the littlest of things, like, how to open the door in a car, that you got to put your hand here and, just little things like that. But I have grown more as an individual, as a human, being a father, because I'm trying to teach them things that I don't do as a person, like be outgoing, like to go talk to people, to look at people in their eyes and to have conversations and to make friends. I don't even do those things. I am not a huge I'm not a huge stranger danger guy. I don't like stranger danger. And I don't know why. It just never made sense to me, because if my kids get lost at the park, they're going to need to go talk to somebody, they're going to have to, they're going to have to survive a little bit. So, we teach different principles and stuff like that, to be outgoing. So, when they were growing up, we would go to the mall or we would go to a park or whatever. And I would tell them that they have to go get, or they had to go pull information or go do a research project with other people. So I would tell them, go get the time for me, or go, I want to know what someone's favorite color is, or I want to know, something specific about them, and you can go pick whoever you want. And in doing that, I'm teaching them, because intuition is such a real thing, like, especially in kids and especially in women. I mean, that a woman's intuition is such a real and powerful thing. And so, them, picking out the person they feel is safe. One, it was fun for me to see who that is. But two, it teaches them that if they do get lost or if they do get into a bad situation, they're able to find someone that's going to be able to help them. And, I hear parents say, well, go find a police officer. Well, I mean, how
There's
long?
only so many of them.
How long is that
Right,
going to
yeah.
take? So I just always taught those different principles. But then and again, I would hide and act like, I couldn't see them, like they were out there on their own. But of course, I never took my eyes off them. I'm too much like my mother. But I as I'm doing it, I'm thinking to myself, I can't do that. Like I'm not going to go talk to anybody. So I think in teaching them how to be a better person, it's made me a better person too. So I guess they teach me just as much as I teach them. And so again, I guess it's just all about that growth.
Couldn't agree more and stuff. Try to push your kids to, especially stuff that we struggle with day to day, and help them grow as people.
Yeah, I've never thought about that, because our kid was like, we had to remind her of stranger danger, because it was like, look, we don't need to talk to every single person that we come across.
That's how my
Like,
son is.
Yeah, like, and that's like, it's like, man, like, but it was so hard, because like we don't want to like squash that. Like we didn't want to squash that friendliness and like that outgoingness, but like,
Sure.
look, we don't need to strike up a conversation with every single person. Like she's even at like 5, she would read the name tags of the cashiers and be like, thanks, Susan. And they'd be like, oh, like, it's great. Like, that's cool. We're good with that. But like, we don't need to talk to every person, like, just because we ain't got time for that. But that's an interesting, I've never thought about doing, those experiments like that. Like that would be interesting.
My wife thinks I'm crazy. She thinks she thinks it's like entertaining for me. It's just like,
I mean, it would be entertaining,
yeah,
right?
It is entertaining. It's absolutely entertaining.
That's awesome.
They're good sports. But, again,
how many do you have?
I have 3 little girls. Yeah. My oldest is 12, and then I have 2 that are coming up with birthdays here next week. And they're going to be 9 and 6. So I'm excited. They're good kids, and they're good kids because they take after their mother. So I'm safe.
I can agree with that. God.
You're in the same boat.
Yeah,
Kirk?
thank God. My daughter's
Safe.
like my mom or my wife.
I think too. I've in talking about like your kids, thinking that everything, or because that's what they believe. I mean, they think you are the end all be all, and they have no idea how much I don't know.
Whether you're their only source of information
That's
they've had.
which is so scary. And again, it's just so much pressure that I don't think a lot of people really understand. But especially for my girls, being in a small town, and I come home and I look like a GI Joe. I look like I'm in the SWAT team, and and they see me as Superman.
Right.
So I guess for me, just living up to who it is that they think that I am, or being that person through their eyes, is something that's always driven me, or it's always caused me to try to be better tomorrow than I am today, because I'm always trying to be that role model for them. I think is something that's always really, really driven me. And again, it's put me in this seat to help with this raffle and to hopefully get this money for them.
Right. And I've always tried to do for my daughter and stuff. I want to be the man that I want her to marry.
Yeah.
And kind of push that. So if I do something wrong, I don't want her to be, I'm thinking in my head, I don't need her looking at some guy and coming home with somebody's going to be making me mad.
Well, it's a good point too. I've done the same where it's like, I think I'm getting better at it, but it's one of those things where, as a father, where I'll do something, and then I try to be very active about checking myself. Like when I walk away, like, all right, did I handle that appropriately? Did I do that right? Like, I don't know. Even it was something silly as I just because it happened this morning. I was getting ready to make her some breakfast, and said, whatever, and she said, I was like, this is what you want? She's like, yeah. I was like, all right. She said, thanks. And I walked away. And I just got in the kitchen. I started doing something. I was like, stopped. I walked in, knocked on the door, and opened. She's like, what? I said, you said thanks. I said, you're welcome. I forgot to say that. I'm sorry. And she just kind of like looked at me and kind of like, okay. But it was like even those little things where it's like, hey, like we, particularly, like you said, like as a, a father of a daughter, if, whoever she's going to end up with, like, I want to be a example of, how I treat, my wife, and how,
Exactly.
a partner should treat another, and how, treating your kids and all these different things. It's like, you realize that, oh, like you are one of the sole examples for this tiny little human, like growing up. And it's like, oh, like I forget, because I'm a very, engineering and like math, and like that's how like my brain orients. So it's like I forget that, oh, this little thing's only 9, 10, or 6 or whatever age they are. And it's like you forget that, like, they don't, like, their brain is still like, they haven't gone through all the things you've gone through. We're like, you come across somebody that's your own age. It's like, all right, you've been on this earth long enough, and you kind of understand how things work in a sense. But this little thing, whatever it is, like, it's its entire world in a sense.
Watching everything you're doing.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Scary.
yeah.
They really do. I mean, they make you better, because otherwise, without them, I wouldn't be thinking about those little
balance, checks and balances.
Yeah, but it's the little things that really matter.
Here's a question for you, since you hit me on the spot with the bourbon question, and I'll do one better. I'll answer it first, because we've already answered it.
That's just giving me time to think.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I'll give you a little bit. No problem.
Give you a little leeway.
And you can, obviously, if you don't have the answer, we can come back to it. But his brother-in-law, my business partner, asked this question on a podcast. It's a fantastic question, and he said, if you knew that, like, you were terminal with an illness or something, or you were going to die, and you had to leave your kids one piece of advice, what would you leave them? And mine was, basically be like the truest version of yourself, and like and we kind of talked about this without saying it, but like daily self-appraisal. to become the best version of yourself so you can kind of give back to society. And then, like you said, the karma or the good energy, just being a like genuinely good human being. That was kind of what I chose as my advice. So,
Wow.
do you remember what yours was? We'll give him a little bit more time.
I vaguely
It's a
remember.
hell of a question.
I don't remember
Oh,
exactly how I
that's-
worded it. I remember I worded it at the time, and when I said it, I was like, "Oh, that was pretty good."
Surprised yourself?
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
can't
Makes you
remember
think.
exactly how I worded it, but it was basically, what was it? It was basically, in a sense, man, I need to remember how I said it. I need to like write it down so I can like quote myself. but it was something along the lines of basically like live life, like it matters in the long term, but like it doesn't in the short term. In a sense, like live life to the fullest, like each day, but remember that you can have this, this long time period that you. I wish I remember how I worded it then, but it was essentially like live life, try to have fun, but don't get too caught up in, the nitty gritty, and because in the end it won't matter. But you got to live it up as much as not live it up, but man, I kept trying to. I was trying to think of the whole thing as you were saying it because I knew you were going with it, but that was terrible. I can't even remember. I can't even encapsulate it very well. But it's.
Was that a agreeing or that was terrible?
Yeah, it's terrible. My mind is just like tripping over
I'm just
itself
trying
right
to be
now.
positive.
I appreciate
just
it.
trying to be positive.
I gotta get some
yeah.
ribs in. Usually I talk more crap than this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll have to like quote it at the bottom of like in the notes. But like, this is what I was actually trying to say when I was just like mumbling to myself. Yeah, but it's live life like it's important, but don't take life too seriously.
Mhm.
In a sense where it's hey, this is
Take
what it
time to
is.
laugh.
Yeah, make it worth it, but also live your life like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Sense.
Well, and I think that's important because I think obviously, life is stressful, and if you can't find something, that makes that stress worth it, and enjoying the time that you have, and excuse me, and enjoying others and building relationships and things like that, and doing it, for you. We've talked a lot about this raffle, and that Kirk and I are trying to do this for other people, and people in our community, and obviously our children and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you're not happy, you're no good to anybody else.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really important. My wife laughs at me with all the sayings and all the things that I tell my kids and all the things that I teach them, but every single day I tell them before I drop them off at school, or before I leave them, or before I'm going away from them for however amount of time that might be, whether it's at school or just for a few minutes to go to go to the store or whatever. But I always tell them that it's important. It was important for me to be a dad, I'm Pop to them. They call me Pop. But this is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a Pop, and that, no matter what happens to me, or whether or not, and I'm trying not to get choked up here because these kids are important to me, but that they are, for their own individual reasons, exactly what I wanted. That they're good enough. Thanks, Tony.
No problem.
But then I tell them to do their job, and I think that's important because it's not about the end result. It's not about where you end up. It's that effort in between. So I want them to do what they're supposed to do, because it's important to do what's right for the right reasons. So I tell them to do their job, and once they find out what their job is, you do it harder than anybody else.
Right.
And I think if you have that mindset in this life, I think you're going to be really, really successful. So I think that's kind of like what I instill in them, that effort, that work effort, it's not about the circumstances. It's not about the deck of cards that you're dealt. That we don't have time to sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. Do your job and do it as hard as you possibly can. And at the end of the day, they'll be successful. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I sit with that.
I like that.
I would just keep it simple and just follow your heart, be the best version of yourself, and constantly push each other. Don't like you said, don't get caught up in the small stuff and stuff. Focus on the big picture. Make it being an important part in your community, giving back to the church. Just being simple, I guess. Don't focus on the big stuff. That doesn't matter. If something's like the wars and stuff, that doesn't make a difference. Our communities and building them back up. That's what it's home for me.
That's good. Both of you guys. It's one of those things where
it's tough. That's a tough question because it's like I think about like for me and stuff. You have a family member passes away, and you try to think of what they have told you so you can give back to your kids and someone's instrumental in your life and stuff. Like my grandfather, for me, always telling your kids, like you said, tell them you love them before you go, and trying to be the best version of yourself.
it's hard too because it's like what's the best, what is the best version? So it's like, and maybe this is something that I've just realized the last few 5-10 years, whatever it is, that it takes a while to get to know yourself. What are you made of? What are your strengths and weaknesses and all these things, and how can you leverage these to be a better you? I don't know. I think everyone takes their own path.
Yeah.
But if you don't try,
Right.
Yeah, I think you're talking about humility, just having having the understanding that we don't know it all, and we don't have all the answers, and we can't give them. Obviously, we take the time we have with our when we're talking about our children, we have a small amount of time to before they're out of the house, and my wife and I are just talking about my oldest is going into 7th grade, and AAU basketball and stuff like that is already starting, and we've only got a couple more vacations in which she's going to want to come with us to vacation, or can come with us on vacation. And, see, again, it's just, it happened that life happens so fast, and you've got a small amount of time to try to teach them as much as you can teach them. But, you can't teach them everything. You can't be there to walk them through everything, every possible situation that they're going to be in, which is scary. But at the end of the day, you got to let them live their life, and you got to be able to make, you got to be able to let them make their own mistakes and their own, their own, poor decisions. But reminding them that it's okay to fail, and and it's you can only give them that foundation. Whether it's your faith or whether it's your family, or that the core principles that you believe in. Those passions, you just try to pass on and give to them. And if they always have those things to rely on, they always have those things to fall back on, knowing, having somewhere of comfort that, they can think about, or that they can remember you for, I think you give them the best shot to succeed. Then it's on them. And, I know how confident of an individual I am, and how confident of an individual, how my wife is the most confident person that I know. She's just a warrior, and I know that they're a part of us. That DNA runs really, really thick. So you teach them what you can, and then you let them loose, and you let them go, and it'll be fun.
I think it's too, and like you said, it's okay to fail and stuff. You learn more from failing in life, how to build yourself back up.
It goes back to this whole thing. We talk about community. It just hit me as you're talking about it. As a community it's a group of people, because that's what you need to survive. Everybody has a certain job, or a certain, goal or thing that they're trying to accomplish. And as a combined, entity, like that's how a community thrives. That's how a group of people can survive, because, you have person A doing certain thing and person B doing all that. Everyone's adding pieces of the puzzle.
Yep.
And, and being in a community, you can fail. That's the whole point of being in a group of people, is because not everybody has to be working at 100% all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the goal,
Right.
but not everyone's always getting it right all the time. So if you have a group of people, a good group of people around you, a good community, then you don't always have to be on your game. You're never going to be perfect. So like if you have those people to help pick you up when you fall, or make a mistake, or learn from, or guide you, that's in a sense, that's what a family is. So you can build on each other, and hey, it's okay to fail. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to do these, because we're here to pick up the slack. And you know what? and that's a phrase that's used, often as a negative thing, but really, like, we all need people to pick up our slack
Absolutely.
occasionally.
Absolutely.
I'd be pointing, normally Cass joins us and does the things over here. Like, she picks up my slack all the time, and vice versa, and without that, like, that's the whole point of building a family or, a relationship or a community. Like, as it extends out, is let's help, pick up the pieces together and help each other, work these things out and, build something, greater than ourselves.
It's a little bit like home team. Our principal, if I can give her a little bit of a shout out, she always says it takes a village, to raise our kids. And man, it is ever so right, because again, back to that humility, I don't know everything. And I think, the best thing that someone can do in their lives is to surround themselves with people that are not only different than them, but, have a different skill set. And so, because I can't teach my children everything. I send them to school every day to learn those things. I send them to play sports every day, relying on other people to be, to be parts of that puzzle, like you were talking about, Fred, to help me raise my children, because I can't do it on my own. And it is really, really important to have that community that is willing to do that. And I think sometimes people don't even realize that they're kind of signing up for that. I don't know if, like, our teachers are, I believe in my heart, outside of our soldiers, our the teaching profession is the most important profession in the world. Like, I mean, they're giving my kids the greatest gift in the world. And I don't think, sometimes they even understand the magnitude, of how important that is to us as parents. But it is really, really important to have that foundation in a really good community, in a school and things like that. And that's why this, Saints Peter and Paul is so important to Kirk and I, because they have given our children just that. And my kids are, they're so much better people because of the teachers in that building. And I could speak individually about a lot of them. They just are really, really good people, and they don't do it for money. They don't do it for fame. They do it because they really do love and enjoy kids and giving them that gift. So, if we can help with this raffle to continue to, like I said, keep those lights on, I'll sit here and talk about them all day, because it's important.
It's like me and Casey, we took off last Monday, was it? And stuff. And it's like, you realize it's like, we were starting to do this. I'm not going to get scared you're going to fail at doing something. We're talking about failing and stuff. As we're going around getting donations and stuff, the strong backing we got from the community and our church and our friends and stuff just helps drive you to keep pushing forward for the kids. And like you said, I can't speak enough good about our teachers and stuff. Our kids are so sweet and kind and stuff they're picking up from the teachers and learning about God and stuff.
Every single nickel that we raise is going back to the school to, we're going to hand it to the principal and to Father Morris and do what they want with the money. But it's important, because those people, they deserve it.
Well, I will be the one to say, if they're a reflection of what we see here today, it's a good cause, and you might end up picking up a bottle of bourbon along the way. One more time, I can't think of a better way to wrap this up than that. Yeah. So you guys have a bourbon raffle. Where can people go? How can people help? Deadline, all those things.
So we've got to get this wrapped up by July 2nd. That's our live event. And you can go to afatherscommitment.org, and it is a one-stop shop to get tickets for the raffle, to maybe win a bottle of some of the limited and rare bourbon that we have on there. Tickets to the event. Again, that's going to be at the school, Saints Peter and Paul School. And we would love people to buy those tickets that have never been to Doylestown or have never seen the school and have never seen, our church, and our great community. It really is a special place. And then you can do all that stuff there, and then also make a donation if you want to make a donation to the cause in general. Because there is a lot of people out there that have spent a lot of time and money and resources, getting the bottles together and putting together the live event, and not only just the overhead and us trying to get our 501c3, our nonprofit status, where it needs to be. There's obviously cost to that and everything like that. So Again, we've got 150 rare, limited allocated bourbon from the state of Ohio. We're only going to sell 1,500 tickets, so you got a 1 in 10 chance of winning, and we're going to raffle those off on July 2nd, and we're just going to do them individually. So you've got it's an individual bottle. It's not, someone asked me the other day, are you just raffling off one ticket for 150 bottles? I want to make that clear.
Start the collection.
Yeah, we're going to we're going to they would need to win 4 raffles to get as many bottles of bourbon as Kurt has. So that's our goal. And again, if we sell all 1,500 tickets, the tickets are $50 a piece, so we sell them all, we're going to raise $75,000 for St. Spirit of Paul Catholic School, which was founded in 1862. And the only reason I know that is because the girls, my girls, the kids at the school, and my girls sing a little song that has that in it, and it just kind of sticks with me.
Oldest Catholic school in the diocese too.
Mhm.
Awesome. Anything else?
No, just so we can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We got ads out and stuff. Check our ads out.
And I'll make sure that everything will be linked in the description. So as people are listening, they can just click and go and find what you guys are doing. And
Got some fun ads. Carolyn Cooper put some fun stuff together for us. We got some Star Wars ads.
Nice.
We've got some people behind the scene, and again, I just want to say that without Kirk, we could not have done this. He has put in a lot of time getting this together. But there's a lot of other people out there. I don't know if they want their names said over the air, but they know who they are, and we could not have done it without them. And we know that this is just as important to them as us. So, Tony, Fred, thank you guys for letting us come
Thank
on
you
here and
guys.
talk about
You're
it.
very welcome.
Thank you guys.
We'll share it out, and obviously feel free to disseminate as wanted. So I appreciate you guys coming on, and
Thank you for the bourbon too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that single barrel was really good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
well, awesome. I appreciate you guys, and we'll have to maybe we can do a follow up afterwards at some point
Absolutely.
and see how it went and all that
How it
fun
goes.
stuff.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Good
We
luck.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Remember, check out the website, chronic-curiosity.com, to join us at the forum, have some fun, interaction, pick you up a comfy t-shirt, or if you just want to support the show and donate, all that is on the website as well. Thank you. Until next time. See you.